Is anxiety just undigested experiences? So many people in today's world experience anxiety. And anxiety is an experience. And where do these experiences come from? How do they happen? What causes them? It's an amazing question. And sometimes we have to look to the East and get some ideas from the Eastern philosophies. And we look to the West and look at the scientific reasoning behind some of these experiences. And I've been working with people with anxiety for 28 years, going on 29 years. And there is a pattern. There's a real pattern. And I would like to share with you what I find. Now, in the East, they talk about churning and discerning. So what does this churning and discerning really mean? What we do know is when you take in food and put it into your stomach, it has to churn. And as it churns, it goes, the food particles get broken down, goes past your duodenum, it drops other digestive aids into the system to digest a little bit further. As it goes through the small intestine, the nutrients are absorbed through the villi and go into the bloodstream. So this is your body churning and discerning. It is discerning and taking out the nutrients that is required through the digestive intelligence. The rest is discarded. And it will just let that go. So in the Eastern philosophy, they talk about the same thing. They say when we take in experiences, we take these experiences in through the five senses. Sound. So somebody could be yelling at you. Somebody could be singing or laughing. Touch. We have a touch. You blow on the hairs of your arm if you've got hairs on your arm. So that's touch and feel. And touch and feel is related to the air element. Sound is related to ether. And then we have sight. We see things. We see the whole world from here through sight. And sight is related to the fire element. And next we have taste buds. And taste is related to the water element. And last is smell. And smell is related to the earth element. You can dig a hole in some fresh soil. And you can smell the earth. Earth puts out a smell. So they are the five elements. And these five elements is very much involved in all of the Eastern philosophy. And so we will go over these elements at a little deeper depth later on. But I want you to have a bigger picture of this whole story. So with some of the Eastern philosophy is, when you take in an experience, you have to take in an experience through these five senses. Sound, touch, sight, taste, smell. It goes into the brain. The brain is a computer, but it has to be digested. And these experiences come to what they call the Solarplex. The Solarplex is related to the mental and the emotional. And so these experiences have to be digested similar to your food. So how do we make sense of this churning and discerning? So what we do know is we have the physical body, which is related to the earth element. We have an emotional, we get all emotional over things, whether it's food and we get caught up in desire, or whether we are having a bit of an argument with someone. So we have what the East calls an emotional body. Some philosophies call it pranic body, and also it's associated with your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is where all your feelings and your beliefs and your self-talk and your structures, all of this stuff is stored in this thing called subconscious mind. So Western philosophers accept the subconscious mind. All psychiatry is all built around this. And so the mental side is related directly here to this Solarplex. And this is related to the mind. And the mind is kind of the controller of the five senses. And that's all it controls. But what else is in the mind? The mind is caught up in thoughts. You think of this and think of that. You'll have 10,000 thoughts throughout the day. Thoughts come, thoughts go. So this is what this thing called the mind or the mental body is about. And then you have another body, which is the intelligence. We all know that we can reason, we can do sums, we can analyse, and it's called the intellect body. They call them bodies. We may call them minds. It doesn't really matter. However, this body in the East is called the buddhi. This intellect body, it's called the buddhi. You've heard of the Buddha. He became enlightened because he was totally engrossed in the Buddha, in his buddhi, that took him into a higher level. And then the last body, they call it Ananda, or the bliss body. And this is where you feel love, this is where you feel joy, this is where you feel happiness. And a lower level of it is contentment. So these are all different body elements. So when you take in an experience, and it's a good experience, you might have been to a dance, you might have been to a play, you might have watched a beautiful program on TV, or you've had a big laugh with someone, and you feel really good. So you're resonating somewhere between your, what we call your bliss body and your reasoning body. Everything's good. You're in a safe space, you're enjoying yourself. However, there's a lot of experiences that create reactivity. Now, this reactivity is tied into what is called the survival coding. And the survival coding is fight, flight, feeding, reproduction. And we can understand fight and flight. You go into battle and you attack, or you are attacked and you have to retreat. This is a built-in mechanism, and I'll explain this in the next video. However, this is what happens when our perceptions, remember this word perceptions, goes into reactivity. And one of the reasons that our perceptions go into reactivity is between the two hemispheres, this hemisphere, right hemisphere, left hemisphere, there's a big bundle of nerve fibres called the corpus callosum. And each hemisphere actually speaks a different language. This is a very analytical, logic language. This is a very creative, in relationships language, and it's just very creative. It's artistic. It loves dance and song and music and so on. And the communication between these two hemispheres is not getting through. And it's very, very easy to test this on a visual. You can test it on an auditory, and you can test it other ways. But the visual is the most profound, easiest test. And we'll talk about that later. So when this information is not getting through from one hemisphere to the other, then this thing called the survival coding kicks in, because your brain is not performing. Now, for those people who are dominant in their logic hemisphere, they can get away with a bit, because we live in a logic world. Our schooling is all about logic. And these people here, being emotional and reactive or active, if the communication is not getting through, this fight-flight has to lock in as a secondary protective mechanism, because awareness is not really full on. You don't have this thing called awareness. And something might be happening behind you, and then something's happening in front of you, and your attention is in front of you. However, your awareness is missing out on what's behind you. So the fight-flight kicks in to hopefully have you aware of this and aware of what's behind you. So when this fight-flight kicks in, you're in battle. And when you're in battle, two things get switched off. One is your digestive system, and the second is your bladder system. You can't be in battle with someone swinging swords and say, hang on, I've got to slip out to the toilet. That just don't work. So what happens is the vast majority of people are walking around and living in this mode. And this is what really stirs up anxiety. And because you've taken on board an experience, it's in the emotional body, it gets caught up in the physical body. It gets caught up in the physical body through the adrenals. And the adrenals are part of the fight-flight. And you've got most of your leg muscles are associated with the fight-flight. You need to run or into battle or run away from battle. So your big toe and your other 4 digits, they're associated with fight-flight. Your calf muscle is associated with fight-flight. And to lift your knee, the lower leg muscle associated with that is called the soleus. And that is associated with fight-flight. And this is part of why when people have anxiety, they may get tight leg muscles, calf muscles. So you're starting to understand how it's all interwoven. And so when you take in these experiences and you're aiming to digest them, these experiences cannot get to your intelligence to reason. Because if you could reason out some of these life experiences, and you say, oh, well, this is what happened. Oh, yeah, I can see where that connects with this and connects with that and so on. And then you can come to an agreement with yourself and put it to rest. However, while you're locked in fight-flight and your adrenals are up, you can't access this thing called the buddhi, or the intelligence body, to make a common sense, here now assessment, judgment, call it what you want. So it goes around and around and around in circles. And it just keeps on keeping on. Now there's several ways I can share with you to ease this off. However, how does this start? where it actually starts is actually in the birthing process. Amazing. But coming through the birth canal is one of the most challenging experiences you've ever experienced. You are in the inner world, and you're sucking your thumb, and you're building your body, and you're growing this, and you're growing that, and you're basically in bliss. You're in peace. You're in happiness. True, you can be aware of what's happening in the outside world, but we won't get into that at the moment. But basically you're in this sack. You're having a life experience. Your life experience is, wow, I'm happy here. And then somebody knocks on the door and says, time to get out. And so the mother body now prepares you. You turn upside down and you turn and face the right way. And the mother breaks the water, and when that happens, you've got no choice. You've got to come out into the outside world. Well, that big squeezing experience can be very stressful for some babies. And some birth procedures can be quick. Some birth procedures can take hours and hours. And then there are other experiences called caesarean birth. And that has a different effect on the baby. But they all have an effect on this cranium. Breech birth, you come out the wrong way. And that has a real profound effect. Those people are easily rubbed the wrong way. And then there's forceps birth. And forceps birth is one of the most horrific, long-term stress events you can ever experience. Because here's the mother and the baby pushing, and for whatever reason, these big jaws come in and they start tugging you. Where do they tug you? Round the head. And they just lock up all the cranial bones for the rest of your life. And some people are lucky and they can get through the experience, and some people, they just can't make life happen. So all of these experiences blocking access to this intelligence mind. And what we have to do is get you to reach this intelligence mind. Once you reach this intelligence mind, a whole lot of stuff just sorts itself out. Because you've got a whole lot of pixies or notes on this side who want to exchange to this side and this side of your the brain, the left hemisphere of the brain. It's got a whole lot of notes that it wants to exchange over to that side of that hemisphere. And it just can't do it because of this crossover and the fibres. They're not broken. It's like there's millions and millions of fuses, and all these fuses get popped. And all the reflexes, the master switch reflexes all around your head, they just go out of sync. And when they go out of sync, a whole chain reaction of systems happen. And for some people, they'll develop scoliosis. Everybody will have fight-flight. And most people have scoliosis. Some people will have a twisted pelvis. Some people have a poor digestive system. Some people have an upset immune system, and others will have cardiac stress. And some people's jaws, you see their jaws way over here, or the teeth get their teeth aren't meshing properly. Or the jaw is way over here. All this can happen coming through the birth canal. And until you find a way, a simple way, an easy way of clearing all these blockages, you'll never have peace of mind. And at the end of the day, that's what humanity's looking for. They're looking for peace of mind. They're going to work to earn money for this or for that or for whatever. And hopefully, by the time you're in your late midlife, you own your home and you own this and you own that and you own something else, and you're feeling contented. You're feeling you've achieved something. However, there's many people that just never get into that position. And so this churning in the stomach that cannot reach this intellect to reason out the experience will just go over and over and over and over again. You can take a pill for it. Sure, it might calm you down for a while, but it'll come back. I'll guarantee you it will come back. It's a thing called karma. And that's a karmic. Every experience that you have in your life is an action-reaction. And that's only karma. As you sow, so you reap. So what we need to do is educate you so you can take command. And when you take command, you're operating from your intellect, this fourth body called the buddhi. So I hope this gives you some understanding of this thing called anxiety. You can meditate. Meditating is great. It will take you down. Anxiety's up here. Meditation takes you down to here. You come back out of it and you may go back into your anxiety. However, sometimes in meditation, you will get an inner message of what the anxiety is about. And if you get that inner message as to what the anxiety is about, wow, your buddhi has been wanting to give you this information, and it's been able to find a way, and it'll do it through meditation. In some forms of yoga, that will help. And one thing that does happen with anxiety, stress, anxiety, basically the same, is your muscles become tense. And when your muscles become tense, that in itself creates an anxiety separation between the right and left hemisphere. Now, there is a program I'll put together later on, a few months' time, and that will teach you how to release all of this physically. Release all your tight muscles. There's two sets, what we call the grade 8 and the secondary 8. And that will do the bulk of it. However, there will be over 100 muscles that you will be able to learn how to release. You will feel fantastic. We have this program here right now, Stress to Vitality Training. And what it does, it teaches you how to find your hidden energy channels and whether they're working or not. And if they're down in energy, this also is a part of a carryover towards anxiety. And when you recharge these meridian energies, all of a sudden, where's the anxiety? However, sometimes it will come back, and that's understandable. And the program is to teach you how to identify particular time frames in your life. And you target that. And when you target that, you're targeting that experience, and you'll find that just by targeting that experience, all the meridian energies will go out of sync. So then you re-clean your meridian energy systems to that experience. And that helps you reach the buddhi, the intellect. On this particular web page, there is some free tips. And this free tips teaches you